Hi, Rosie.
Hi, Isabelle. So I've got Isabelle from the NCT with me today to answer a few of your questions about antenatal depression. So the first question from people is, what actually is antenatal depression?
So lots of people have heard of postnatal depression, and I'm sure you have heard of it, Rosie. And I do quite a bit of session for the NCT. I'm a breastfeeding counselor, but I'm also an antenatal teacher. So I see the moms when they are pregnant, and some of them will ask about antenatal depression because they're a bit unsure. So it can happen at any point during the pregnancy.
Yeah.
And and symptoms are very, very similar to the one that could appear with postnatal depression. But there are also some pointers maybe for some of them that maybe they might want to hear, like, they might be really worried about giving birth or becoming a mom for the first time. Um, Maybe sometimes they find that they don't have much energy,
Mhm.
they disturb sleep, but then, you could tell me, yeah, but actually disturb sleep when you're pregnant is a given. So, it's one of those where like, maybe it's not so obvious.
And sometimes, isn't it? Because if you don't know the signs and symptoms of antenatal depression, especially if it's your first pregnancy, you don't necessarily know if that's just normal
Mm,
pregnancy, like
yeah.
hormones and things, or if it is actually something a little bit more.
Hmm. Yeah, that's it, because you could be experiencing that and thinking, well, actually it's normal, but then when it's become a little bit too much to cope with, they could sometimes, some women will also lose interest in themselves, not taking care of themselves, feeling really emotionally detached from
Yeah.
the pregnancy. That can be happening, or equally getting really angry and irritable.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, I
um,
think that was probably how I experienced antenatal depression. Is I got quite angry and upset, and actually did, yeah, I did feel quite detached from. It was my third pregnancy, and I did, yeah, feel quite detached from the whole experience. So.
Yeah, so your third pregnancy, you're saying, Rosie. Yeah.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that was probably the worst experience that I had, and I had it was only until I was 28 weeks pregnant that I actually got sort of properly diagnosed with it. But I'd definitely been struggling before that. I just found it, yeah, I was just exhausted. I had two older children. They were older, they were still top, they were, 3 and 4, I think. So still little. So it was hard work, because I didn't, even then, I didn't really know if it was just normal pregnancy stuff, or if it was actually something a little bit more.
Mhm. And it's ever so difficult to kind of judge, to think, oh, well, is it or isn't it? And interestingly, that was your third pregnancy, and even at that point, it took a while to seek support. Mm.
That kind of leads us on to the next kind of question that we've got. So what kind of help is available for somebody that's got antenatal depression?
So it's there are few things that someone might want to explore. Um, So, first of all, it's realizing that this is antenatal depression. So that might take quite a bit. So there is the avenue of self-care. I mean, I don't know if there is anything that you did yourself, Rosie, that you found useful in terms of self-help method.
Not in my pregnancy, no. It was one of those things that, hindsight is a wonderful thing. There was lots of things I
Mm.
probably could have done, but I didn't. Yeah, I definitely could have benefited actually from having somebody maybe even suggest some things to do that might have helped. It did help a little bit when my older children started nursery, so I had a little bit of kind of time just to
Mhm.
be, and not sort of be worrying about things, and even just being able to have a nap. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And it's so that goes along with the sort of the suggestion of reducing the stress level.
Hmm.
Easier said than done, especially when you've got two toddlers.
Yeah.
Um, we would suggest to a mom to consider if she could boost a little bit her well-being. So thinking about maybe a bit of yoga, a bit of mindfulness. Nowadays there are some like free apps that can be used for that. Um, Looking a little bit at what are the trigger for stress. So targeting that sort of well-being.
Hmm.
Uh, Talking to people about it. So talking to friends, to family, accepting offer of help.
Hmm.
Uh,
So
that
if
can.
somebody was maybe having, anxiety and worrying maybe about kind of giving birth, to sort of I saw something the other day about seeking out positive birth stories, because obviously, when you get pregnant, sometimes people just like to give you the horror stories, and actually it's quite nice to read some positive ones and make you feel a little bit more positive about that possibly, if that's something that somebody was struggling with.
Yeah, so it's really seeking maybe some groups of women who potentially have similar issues that you can share with, getting outside as well. And at the moment it's getting a bit better. We're starting to unlock, which is amazing, and then the weather is also nicer. So a little bit of walk, exercise, that's going to help the endorphin going, so that can make a big difference. There are peer support groups in some area, so that are targeting, really supporting women with emotional issues during pregnancy. It's hard to tell where they are across the UK, but there will be some available.
Yeah. I was going to ask something, I forgot what it was. So I think we'll go on to the next question. So it's does that mean if you have antenatal depression that you would then sort of definitely get postnatal depression?
So we can never say definitely, it's quite hard. What we know is that if anyone had a history of depression or had a high level of anxiety, then there is a higher chance that she might develop that later on once a baby is born. So that's something to watch for, to be aware, and keeping in mind the signs of postnatal depression that might be creeping in.
Yeah.
A lot of women will experience a sort of like a bit of a baby blues once the baby is born, where they're low mood, feeling tearful, feeling really, really tired in those first few weeks.
Yeah. Well, so with my experience of having antenatal depression, I mean, I did have it with all three of them, but it was only really afterwards that I realised that's what it was. I didn't actually end up developing postnatal depression with my third until much later. He was nearly one by the time I started, really struggling. So that was really reassuring for me, to know that, even though I'd had it postnatal depression before, I still, I was more aware of, like you say, triggers and things like that, and knowing about how to look after myself, and being able to say to friends and family, please just kind of look out for me. And I think that's important as well when you're pregnant. I think it's as much for sort of family and friends and things to look out for the woman and to sort of be aware of what that woman's normal is, and if it changes, to maybe bring it up.
Yeah, definitely, because they're the one who knows her. So they will know that, oh, there is that change of behavior. She used to love going out for a walk, and now she's very much like keeping herself indoor and not wanting any contact. Or she loved to eat some type of food, and now it doesn't seem to, she's not really not enjoying. So they could be that there are those signs that are missed by a health professional. And I was talking to some mom the other day, and one of them was saying that their sign of antenatal depression actually was that she kept everything perfect. She had bought everything. She was completely in control, and she felt that was her way to hide. She didn't want anyone to know. So it was really interesting, because you don't find those signs.
No, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I think, in certain cultures and things like that as well, it's very much, you should, you've got the baby and that's what you do. You have babies and you have families, and I think just in general as well, if you sort of, maybe it's taking you a while to get pregnant, and then you're feeling all these feelings of being depressed and anxious and things like that, and you think, oh, I can't let anybody know this, because I really, and you still want to have your baby, but you think, it shouldn't be like this, and I think a lot of people can probably relate to that kind of feeling.
Yeah, and that mix of then antenatal depression and also antenatal anxiety, they very much work together. So it's very hard to kind of differentiate them, and that can make someone feel really very unwell. So once you realize that, and if all the self-help that we mentioned hasn't quite worked, then the next step is to talk to a doctor or midwife and get some treatment.
Yeah,
For
I think that's really important, isn't it? Is to for women to know that it's okay to ask for that help, and that, you know, pregnancy is incredibly hard. You know, it is there's so many different changes, you know, emotionally, physically, and, you know, the sort of the life change that you're going through is huge. And I think, you know, people maybe underestimate that a little bit, because it's sort of rose tinted in media and things sometimes, and in movies, and it's not always going to be as plain sailing as that. So it's so important that women know that it's all right to ask for help, and that, you know, it doesn't make you a bad mom or anything like that if you're finding things difficult.
I can't imagine how hard it's been for the past 12 months for anyone expecting.
Yeah.
I've got absolutely no idea how hard it has been.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, really. And yeah, pregnancy in social media is portrayed as a joyful event. And that might not be that for anyone. It could be that it's been a long journey through lots of IVF treatment, or through a lot of a bump on the road in terms of relationship, or maybe miscarriage, stillbirth. We don't know what women bring. And yeah, it's not always a joyful event.
No.
And that brings lots of anxiety and worries.
Yeah, and I think, yeah, it's just important that women know that, you know, and women are treated as that, you know, unique sort of, you know, experience. You know, not everybody's experience is different, so, you know, it's going to be, you know, different for you as it is for, you know, your neighbor next door. You know, so it's just making sure that women, I think, know that if you're finding things difficult in your pregnancy, that it is okay to ask for help. You know, it took me until, like I said, 28 weeks pregnant with my third to actually speak to my midwife. You know, she kind of saw that something wasn't quite right within me, and actually made me go and see the GP that day. It was in the doctor's surgery where I had my appointment. So she actually made me go and see the GP, because I was like, oh, it's fine, I'll go and, you know, I'll make an appointment. And I think she knew I wasn't going to go and make an appointment. So she made sure I saw them before I left. And I was given, you know, antidepressants, and that was all I was able to be offered, really, because there wasn't a specialist service. But that really helped me for that last couple of months, just to sort of make me feel a little bit better. And, you know, obviously when I had him, it was a different experience again. And so that's kind of leads us on to one of the questions is about support groups. So can support groups help mums that are kind of struggling with being, you know, antenatal depression?
Yeah, so some women will find support groups very helpful, but it depends on the type of groups. So they are the general support groups in pregnancy, but those that they find the most helpful tend to be the one where they feel safe to share how anxious or how worried, how depressed they feel, so that there isn't that sometimes that sort of competition that happens in support groups. You know, there are some groups, I don't know if you had that experience, Rosey, where everybody seems to have it together.
Yeah. Yeah, you're definitely looking at other people thinking, why are they coping and I'm not? Definitely. Yeah.
And we all do that. We all do that social comparison, and if we're not well, so if somebody's got anxiety or depression, is already thinking, I'm not a good mom, I should be enjoying this, I should be bonding with my baby, then a voice is telling her, well, actually, you know, they're all doing so much better. So it's the idea of support group is that actually we kind of sharing and having a facilitator there, or, you know, sometimes a peer supporter, sometimes a health visitor, depending on the type of groups, that can help to nurture those women, and maybe to do what your midwife did, which was actually, you know, maybe you need a little bit more. Have you thought about talking therapy? Have you talked to your doctor maybe to think taking some medication? Because lots of women are worried about taking medication in pregnancy.
Yeah.
It's going to harm the baby. So those support groups sometimes are like a bit like the first step towards getting better, and getting them out of the house or on Zoom at the moment. They do work on Zoom as well.
There's sort of benefits actually sometimes to having this online, you know, world that we seem to be living in, especially at the moment, is that you have that ability to access support groups that are not necessarily, you know, you don't have to, because it can be really, you know, anxious to, you know, can make you feel really anxious to go to a support group. So actually being able to just sort of have access to a support group online, and from the comfort and safety and security of your own home can definitely, you know, help you make that first step. And it is about because it takes a lot of courage to take that first step to ask for help. And, you know, women are a lot stronger than they give themselves credit for, you know, when it comes to asking for help. And, you know, it's about making sure, like you say, about having that safe, you know, environment where you feel that, you know, held and supported. So it's about finding that, whether it's with, like, you know, with a support group, or, you know, with a trusted friend or family member, or, you know, your GP, health visitor, midwife, you know, just knowing that you've got somebody that you can trust, that you can say, actually, I'm finding this quite difficult, and you know, what support is there for me. So
Yeah, and you know, you're so right, Rosie. The Zoom has opened up doors for women who would not have gone out of the house. And again, it's the first step for them. So they're joining group. It's very daunting to join a group the first time. It's so important to join a group where you feel welcome. So there is a meet and greet, that the woman, maybe going with a friend, that could be an idea. You know, if they feel a bit like, oh, I'm not sure, well, join on Zoom together. And then coming back and realizing that, oh yeah, okay, so I'm part of a group here. There are women who are going through the same thing. I'm not the only one, and that makes such a big difference to realize that. But you're so right. It is such a brave step to get out, to go on Zoom, and to meet strangers when one is not feeling well.
yeah, definitely. So the next sort of question that we've got is about Parents in Mind that NCT runs. So what is Parents in Mind, and what does it do to support mums and families?
So Parents in Mind is a project that's been launched few years ago now, and we train local volunteers. Now it's very much regional. So we've got three regions. We've got one in Newham, so that's somewhere in London. There is one in Coventry, Leamington Spa, and then you've got one in St Helens, Halton, so that's a bit further north. I don't know where you're based, Rosie.
Yeah.
So those sort of those areas are targeting women who have any emotional health difficulties in pregnancy and within the first 2 years. So it's the perinatal period. We selected our volunteers among women who had themselves emotional issues. So what drew them to the training is that they wanted to make a difference, to support women who might be going through very similar experiences. And we do it, well, we used to do it face to face. We're doing it on Zoom now, and they're also introducing something called walk and talk.
Okay.
So
Yep.
where they go out with buggies and then they talk to the mom and the babies and just sharing that. So they really, the peer supporters offer emotional support. The target group tends to be a woman who have anxiety, poor mental health issues. If someone has a lot going on, they will be likely to be under the perinatal mental health team, the local one. But then what we've noticed is that they can join Parents in Mind group for emotional support. No clinical support, but really the emotional one. And the service we offer is it's a listening ears, all non-judgmental, and really working with women on what, how they're finding the coping mechanism that's been discussed maybe with their psychologists, supporting them in sharing their experiences, and maybe navigating the services as well. So signposting to relevant places.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. It sounds like sort of those kind of groups are really good at working alongside, you know, the specialist services and things, aren't they? Because it offers that peer support, like you're saying, you know, people that have been there, done that, got the t-shirt. It's certainly something that I would have benefited from, I think, when I was, you know, going through my experiences. And that's why I, you know, I do what I do, and support mums that are going through, you know, difficulties in pregnancy and beyond. So yeah, it's definitely really important that we, you know, have those options out there for mums, and that they know. Can you sort of self-refer to Parents in Mind then?
Yeah, so that can they can do it via self-referral, or they can also get midwife or health visitors to refer them, or anyone from the perinatal mental health team. But it's very localized at the moment. So if they're in this local area, definitely more than welcome. And I could get you the link, Rosie, if you
Yes,
have
that would be brilliant.
even
Yeah,
it.
we'll add that on the post. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So have you got anything else that you'd like to add about antenatal depression and things like that for the mums that might be watching?
Um, so just a final note, maybe on Parents in Mind, and it's a service that is growing as we're expanding. And one of the feedback we had from the moms who attended the service was like, "What about the dads?"
Mm.
Because we were like, "Well, actually, I'm also worried about my partner." So we're going to launch like really, really soon a Partners in Mind. So that
Fantastic.
will be for fathers and co-parent. Um, so same-sex couple as well. Thinking about what's going on for the partners, and we are looking for anyone who would be interested, and we're getting few people coming along. So really hoping to launch that very soon in Halton St. Helena area up north, and we'll see how it goes.
Fantastic. So thank you very much for joining me today, Isabel.
Thank you, Rosie.
Thank you very much.